Actually, personally, quite a fan of this view on, let's say, spirituality, because in my
Yeah.
experience, a lot of the like spiritual things, I was able to figure out like a logic to them, and it's like the downside is like you sort of demystifies the issues and makes them some like less awe-inspiring or maybe less fun sometimes if you like understand better how it works. But the real issue to me never was that it can't be figured out in terms of logic or reason. It's just you have to be actually critically thinking and be able to go beyond the current constraints of theories of reason.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because I just think it's a great discussion we can kind of always have in the back of our heads when we're thinking about perfect world theories and how to give everybody, what they want, and however they want in a way that doesn't infringe on other people's beliefs. And I think it's just the better we can kind of frame that structure and the better we can explain that to other people about what the end goal of all of this might be. The more support you might get for it if it's interesting and it's well described. So I think that's a fun thing for us to kind of bear in mind anyway.
Yeah, it's just the issue is that at least in the current state of this universe, many people want is not good, and they want to hurt other people. So always the issue is like how to create a system in which you can actually have people be free, but like in a way that doesn't lead to some sort of horrific crimes. Because then, like, of course, if you have some sort of framework, like a spiritual framework, where this is all a learning experience, then and like after you die in this life, like there could be karma or something that's following consequences from what you did, but ultimately it's supposed to just be on a trajectory of like self improvement
Mm.
or learning, even like learning like from why like some things are wrong, and you have to get the opportunity to do wrong things to be able to figure out that they're wrong necessarily. And maybe everybody who was a victim is actually in some sense consented to the existence to participate in the learning process of the like other people who are still have issues to work out. So
Yeah.
it's like you can sort of factor in all these things. The danger is that if from this perspective, like the truly cosmic perspective, then it's sort of the suffering stops mattering, and which like works against motivation to eliminate it.
Right. That's a good point. So I think we have to start on the assumption anyway, to start with, that we haven't created this world yet. I think, it is possible that we have, and that we're just learning. But I think it's more interesting to think that it's possible, but we haven't created it yet. And for whatever reason, the purpose of our life and the purpose of our existence here on this earth is to create it and to make it better and to make it right, to create the perfect experience machine. And at the end of our 80 or 120 or a million years, we can kind of sit on our deathbed and think, how much did I do to move humanity towards the perfect experience machine, and creating, our version of heaven on earth, and allowing each individual intelligence the ability and freedom to create and be architects of their own heaven, with the ability to do whatever,
Yeah,
do whatever they want.
it's actually difficult because even in more advanced models of human psyche, like the zodiac, you have sort of different personalities that show you that there are fundamentally different motivations from what do you want as experience from life, and some of those are more about like the one that's most like humanitarian and like actually freedom respecting and stuff is Libra probably. And if
Hmm.
Libra could create the world to be perfectly like a world for Libra, then yeah, everybody would be deliberating about everything. Everything would be based on consensus. Everything would be very respectful, but also it would, well, quite literally moderate the experience in that it would eliminate the extremes of the experience. Then you have a whole bunch of different psychologies, like Scorpio, which is mine, or Leo, which are about dramatic experience. So they would want to be dramatic, negative, even like including negative things happening,
Yeah.
because the intensity of the experience is valued. So they would be looking quite actually lowly on a world of like mediocre stand, where somebody was just like made quite sure to eliminate all kinds of danger, but also excitement out of the equation. Now, it doesn't have to be that like people have to be hurting other people. It still could be like natural dangers, and like the current situation, like the world war, where we're all on the same side kind of situation,
Yeah.
is usually that's Aquarius. So it's also one of the intense signs because now it's the period of Aquarius. So it's just so funny. Like it really shapes up to be like a World War-like event. When the previous World War was Leo, which is the opposite sign. So it's like equally intense, but like opposite ideas of what kind of drama is the right kind of drama. Because like for a Leo, the ideal kind of drama is like conflict, that you can then win as the good guy, ideally. But that presupposes the existence of bad guys who are violent. So you can't have a world where you can be a good guy, hero, warrior if there aren't like
Bad guys to
evil
fight.
enemies to fight. So that's sort of the trade-off in that situation. But
Yeah.
also, and you can't see just like like a bad, terrible idea of existence or life. It's one of like valid ideas
Yeah.
of life. Like you should be aspiring to be a hero able to fight against injustice. But also the Aquarius now, it's like equally intense. But the idea is like fighting, like using violence. It's dumb. So if you want to have problems to solve, make them intellectual problems to solve. But like really dramatic intellectual problems, like life or death problems. But you will have to use your ingenuity
Hmm.
and like to ability to cooperate as a species to solve them.
Well, so I think it's really interesting to think that the experience machine, as we discussed, could create all of those worlds for every individual, right? And every style of personality, every style of person could have their perfect enemy kind of created. It might be an NPC, it might be some other person that wants to play that role, right? If you think of how you dream, right? Every person you talk to in your dream is essentially an NPC of your own mind that your mind creates, right? So if you want to think of that as your part of your experience machine, is some of your best, most entertaining, most fun dreams, lucid dreams perhaps, where you kind of remember them and you're able to talk with a long lost relative or a friend where when you're dreaming it seems like your friend, it seems like your long lost relative, but it's really just your mind creating that NPC version of them. So I think it's all possible is what I'm saying. Everybody has the potential to explore the full extent of their own personality.
Yeah, the only real issue is the issue of suffering. Like if there was a scenario in which it was truly non-consensual suffering in the whole system, and the current idea, because like we can't know how this world really works
Right.
behind the scenes. Like we don't know if this world is an unjust world in that sense, or potentially still a just world,
Yeah.
based on like in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But what I also wanted to say was that about the dreams. It's interesting that one of the ways I've heard it explained by I think it was a doctor, some kind of doctor, maybe a psychologist, was that like it's interesting that in dreams you're essentially psychotic, meaning that in the dream you are capable of being completely dissociated from this reality and
Yeah.
truly believing anything about the dream being reality. Because like if you were doing that in the waking state, you would be considered to have a mental problem, that you believed something that's demonstrably not this reality to be reality, to the extent of not just like sort of pretend believing it, but like really, like on like fundamental level, perceiving it as true, like seeing things that are not there, speaking to people who are not there, doing stuff like that. So if you can already do it in a dream and still be able to return to any kind of like actual reality consciousness and awareness, then why wouldn't you be able to foster that technologically?
Exactly. That's where it actually started yesterday when we started talking about dreams and lucid dreaming, and it evolved into holodecks, it evolved into the experience machine, and it was a really fun discussion, with my 16-year-old son. I couldn't believe the different ideas he had. So we both left with thinking, yeah, we've got to think about this a little more. We've got to keep developing these ideas, and it was just so much fun to think about.